And essentially all the payment key is, it's adding, so like, n is number of periods, not necessarily years, but sometimes you can, get n out of how many payments periods per year. You multiply that by how many, whatever. But payments, if you put in a number for payment, it's like as if to say, for every time n occurs, you're going to get one of these payments, and then it discounts back that value to the present. So
if every month it's like 1,000.
Yeah, but it depends on n too. So you could have a problem saying that, like, you have, I mean, if you wanted to, it wouldn't really make sense. I couldn't really think of anything any financial security necessarily, maybe like a bond or something, but like something like, say, matures at $1,000 in 3 years, but also like, which has like present value that you discount back. It's going to be like worth 970 right now or something, let's say. But there's also payments. That's kind of what the coupon payments for bonds, why that key even exists probably in the first place, is to say, like, well, every 6 months you get a coupon payment from a bond, which is like, I don't know, $30 or something like that. So you can type that in, and then every time n occurs, that payment is going to be like at that point in time, not because the 1,000 comes from the end. So if something's getting discounted back and is closer to the current time right now, it's going to be closer to its original value. So if it's like $30, it's going to be like maybe $29.99 in the first one. But in the one that's the one that's coming to the very end is going to be like maybe like $26 or something, because it's going to be discounted more so than the other one. So that's kind of like what payment is, and the reason we use like annuities or the reason we're using annuities, that's kind of like, annuities are just to say like consistent income over a period of time, like that, in that manner. And that's what A is in all these equations. Shouldn't really like kind of say that at any point, but like A is that principal amount of payment of that's coming in every payment period or whatever. But they also assume that there is no beginning value on these annuities. So that's why they have to call them annuities, is because in a real annuity, you just get payments. There's no like maturity date or whatever. There's no big, remember how she said like the present value is going to start at 0, whereas before we're like, how long will it take us to grow like $5,000 to $6,000? Well, your present value is what you're starting with. Whatever you're starting with is going to be 5,000. But for these ones, since the payments are high enough, it's enough to kind of like, you don't need that for starting value. You start at 0, so you put 0 in for present value, and then you want to see how many of those payments it takes for you to get to the future value of 6,000 instead of having to start with anything and have it grow. So yeah, let's see how that kind of plays in. We'll do one of these. She was kind of using the timeline. It always helps to clear things up, to just kind of draw a timeline, even for me, like now. It's if you guys get into corporate finance management, it's a lot of that, because it's like, well, we're expecting to receive, $1,000 from this, and then $2,000 from this other thing in 3 years, and then it's blah, 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 and that's some random uneven cash flows, and then it's kind of why you need like these. She'll be talking about that today, but for right now, we'll go and review a couple of these things here. So see, for this one, you're starting out with nothing, or what is this? Oh, present value of it. Okay, so that was a good question you asked earlier, because now this would be kind of asking almost a different question, you know what I mean? Because what is a present value? So present value, you can look at it one of two ways. You could say it's either the principal value I'm starting with that I'm using as a reference to compare the future value and how much that needs, like what rate I need to get for that to happen over a certain amount of time, vice versa. But for this situation, when they ask you for present value like this, it's like you're discounting. It's the process of discounting. Before we were compounding, which is kind of like, I mean, it really has no other implication other than defining what present value means, or future value. And in this situation, you're not going to enter present value as 0 yet. You're actually solving for it, because there is a present value of $1,000 received at the end of each of these 1-year periods 5 times, right? And if you're getting 2% on that first $1,000 you get in year 1, that's going to grow by 2%, and then the interest on that and the principal of $2,000 now is going to grow by another 2%. So you're throwing in another $1,000, and then you're reassessing the interest on that the second period, because now you have $2,000. So that's kind of like a twist, because before we were just getting interest on interest. It was a little bit higher, but not by much if you increase compounding periods, But this one is like, you're starting from nothing. You're getting 1,000, boom, boom, boom. That's like a large change, and then you're getting interest on that as it gets bigger. But the way you read this, you're saying like, oh, okay, so I'm seeing 5 years. I'm getting 1,000 each year, so I automatically think about having $5,000. That's like the first thought that comes to your head. Okay, so what's the difference between me having $5,000 and me having $5,000 at 2% for 5 years? Well, you don't have the full $5,000 for all of the 5 years for that long. You know what I mean? At 2%, you have 1,000 for 1 year at 2%. You have 2,000 at 2 years for 2%. You have 3,000 at 3 years for 2%, etc. Whatever. So that's what makes it an annuity, and that's what makes it different. But all this is right here. I mean, look at this. Like just physically look at this. You can see this is just flipped over, right? Like all this is these switched, and this went on the bottom basically, and this went on the top. It's just think about it like this. Normally, you gotta wait a year to get your whatever you accumulate on that amount, or whatever you have to pay in interest. It's assessed after the year's up. Annuity due is like, oh, I'm not gonna take this loan or get this money unless I get the money up front or something weird like that, which rarely happens in the real world. But they're just saying, if that is the case, tack on, and that's like actually like rent. That's what rent is, because you pay first and last month's rent first, right? To get the place. So all you have to do is exactly the same thing as this equation, but you just tack on one more period to the end, 1 plus r. Exactly the same thing. So basically, we've already learned all those 3 equations, and it's basically all the same, right? And this effective annual interest, okay, that's just like a rate over. That's actually just exactly what one of these ones was up here. If you look at it, really. Yeah, so, and you guys kind of get the difference between, I think she made a point of saying something that was the difference between APR and EAR. So let's say that you have $100 in for 4 years at 5%. Your APR is the annual rate, which is 5%. Straight flat 5%. That's what they tell you, take out like a mortgage, it's really low, like here's the APR. You see it all over the TV. But in reality, if it compounds 4 times a year, it's going to be a little higher than that. So they don't like to tell you that number if it's a loan, and vice versa if it's an investment. So if you really work that out, you can kind of think of it this way: 100 in at 1 plus r, which is 0.05, right? But your compounding periods. So what am I going to do if this isn't an annual thing? You want to do. So right now we're solving the present value, not the rate, but we'll get there. So, and there's going to be 4 periods in the year, and it's 1 year, so there's going to be 4 total. But then you also have to, don't forget to divide the rate out. Like, that's like something that I always forget to do. It's very easy. It's easy to, in other words, change n on here, but forget to change the I over y thing. Because if you make one higher, you're gonna make the other one, you're gonna divide the other one down, or else it will give you way higher or lower number than is true to the situation. So, so what do we get? 0.0125, and so 1. Power. There we go. It's 0509. Yeah, you gotta be careful. Probably, I don't know if there is a way to set. You guys want to set this also to like 4 decimal places of accuracy. The way to do that is it's like 2 keys. I'll show you in a second, but let me just show you what I'm talking about here for a second. Okay, and we multiply that by 100 and get 105, right? But we also get 9 cents. Ooh, but this is like, super simple example. So now if I, it's really 9, 4, 5. But so you can see that that's not 5% though. That's not a flat 5%. That's, really want to get accurate with it, it's this. This is what it is. So let's go back to this problem with the retirement. Okay, let's just start on 3 because it looks more fun, I guess. Or how about actually this one too? Okay, what is the present value of $1,000 received at the end of every year for 5 years if the rate is 2%? Now, also, you notice how she says on this one discount rate. So the rate can be R or I over Y or whatever. The rate can be looked at 2 ways. I would say the best way to look at it is to just think of it like, okay, I'm comparing this whatever they're giving me with another investment that I know I can get at least 2%. So say like treasury bonds are always a risk-free investment, right? You can get at least whatever the treasury bond return is. Let's say it's 3% right now, okay, or 2%, just for whatever. So you're either looking at this as a situation where you have this. You can either do this opportunity, which would give you the $1,000 every year for 5 years, and look at it as if it has no percentage effect on it, because that almost doesn't really make any intuitive sense, right? Like, nobody's gonna give you $1,000 and then give you $1,000 and then 2% on the, like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no financial security that really does that. What the discount rate really you should look at it as now, instead of an interest rate, you should look at it as like a comparator, like a comparative like variable almost. So say like, well, I know I can get like 5% for sure, but this thing, which is equally as risky, could give me, like a really sketchy 10%. But I gotta assess which is a better decision. So it's used in decision making. So it's like, so it's really just think of it as how much do I personally objectively value this annuity of $1,000 getting just a flat 1,000 every year for 5 years if I know that I can get 2% somewhere else safely with the same certainty, in other words. So that's a good way of looking at it. You're not really gaining 2% or anything weird like that on that annuity at all. It's just you want to see which one is higher, which one makes more sense. So the formula, 1 over R, A times the brackets 1 over R minus 1 over R times 1 plus R, lots of R's in there, to the end power. So I mean, I don't know if you can remember that or not, but it's but just remember one of those. You know, like I said, one of those you can flip all that stuff around. You'll have the other one. This one right here. So I got 1 over 0.02. Yes. I got 1,000 here. 1 over 0.02. And then here's R again. Here's R again. And then you have five periods right here. And a bunch of ones. Right in the third row. So n equals 5. So now, so what you do, you put a number in, and then you put the, see how weird, that's a little shitty. But yeah, put 5 in, and then press N. Put the number in, and then press what you want to set it to. And then you got, what are we doing here? Oh, this is not the right problem. Oops. Well, we'll just do it. Okay. 5 years, the rate is 2. Now you put 2, literally just 2, not 0.02 or anything, because it recognizes that as a percentage. So I over press 2, and then I over y. Okay, and then press 1,000. Now the 1,000 is what's going to go into PMT. Okay. So you see that that's the present value, because right now what you're doing is you're evaluating like these future cash flows coming back, and it's asking you what is the present value. So that's a dead giveaway. But let's see. So let's do the next one. What is the future value of your investment of $500 at the end of your investment? So now we're on the flip side, right? You can see now that we've flipped the equation over because we're using, see these ones? That's what I was talking about earlier. It's just the exact same thing, except now it's all flipped over. Future value of your investment of $500 at the end of every year for 5 years, if you can earn 5% on your investment. So now instead of 1,000, we're using 500, and instead of 2%, we're using 5%. And instead of it being an annuity that's given to you, it's an investment that you're paying into. So always remember and think about the cash flow convention. So it helps you kind of think about that and clear things up if you were to say, well, look, okay, my investment of 500, that means I'm going to be having to give up 500 every time, right? So that's going to be entered as a negative value, and it's going to result in a positive value because it all equals out. So we're going to do 500. So present value in this situation, it doesn't give you, that there is no present value. It's zero because you don't have, it didn't say what is your investment with a principal of like $5,000 or anything. If it said that, then maybe, yeah. But that doesn't really. If you're adding, the way they would word that is if it would be like, if you're adding $500 to the principal, investment of 5,000 at year 0 or whatever. So just be aware of how that could be worded. Okay, and now so PV, put 0 for PV, and then the future value is what we want, and then second was a compute then future value. That was, yeah. Okay, so you guys got 27,630ish. Perfect.